by wearing tight outfits and just covering your head is just not a hijab. It's simply that's called hijab fashion, and the girls and women of this time, of this era, just consider that hijab a real hijab, and they are just being so proud of it. Auzubillahi minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. This is my first video of the new channel, and the topic is Islamic hijab versus the modern hijab, how the enemies are destroying the true essence of the hijab. So, what is Islamic hijab? The hijab that Allah wants us to observe, and the modern hijab that the capitalists and the enemies of the Islam wants us to observe. So the real purpose of the hijab is to hide your beauty, to maintain modesty, to live in dignity, and to not be a center of attraction. But what is the purpose of modern hijab? Like in this era, you have seen many hijabi models and bloggers on social media, on YouTube. So today's hijab is just confined to the headscarf, and the headscarf that is not even covering your bosoms, just covering your head, and that is now in today's word a hijab. By wearing tight outfits and just covering your head is just not a hijab. It's simply that's called hijab fashion, and the girls and women of this time, of this era, just consider that hijab a real hijab, and they are just being so proud of it. But that is not the true hijab. What Allah has said in the Quran, that's not according to that. Young girls are influenced by them, and even women who are just promoting these kind of hijabs, they themselves don't know what they are promoting, and they are just proud of it. And that is the propaganda of the enemy of the Islam. On the one side, they are just banning the hijab, where the women are actually observing the real Islamic hijab. On the other hand, they have just changed their strategy, and they are now just changing the meaning of the real hijab and creating a new thing that in today's world called a hijab. As an article written by Batul Sabiti on Basira Press, she wrote in an article that an example of a Western man who rode off to the east in the mission to occupy and colonize the Egypt, and he was just being famous for to be an enemy of the feminist movement, and who was the president of the Men's League for opposing women's suffrage, aimed at denying British women the right to vote. His name was Evelyn Baring, and that kind of person just came to Egypt, and he was anti-feminist, but there in Egypt he was repeatedly denouncing women's status, and he quoted that women's status in Egypt as well as in all Mohammedan countries hinders their development and advancement to be amongst the civilized nations. On the one side, when he was himself an anti-feminist, and on the other side, he was just labeling Islam as inherently misogynist. And another example would be the French administration in Algeria, who wanted to dismantle the Algerian culture, and various ceremonies were held of Algerian women's unveiling, and one of the French army officer announced, "Are you not pretty? Take the veil off." So the sole purpose of these ceremonies were to control the woman, to make women believe that with veil they don't look attractive, and that is just the real purpose of a woman, to look attractive to men. So it is clearly from his statement what they want from women. So nowadays the women are just doing the same thing, but not just without veil. They are just doing it with veil, with headscarf on their head, and posing for cameras, modeling, exposing their beauty. That has just become the meaning of the hijab. Another good example would be the first hijab wearing woman to appear in an issue of a Playboy magazine. You see the Playboy magazine in 2016 wearing the hijab. This is the pic. I have taken this from the article, and now their purpose is to secularize the hijab and just confine it to one's own choice, one's own identity, and nothing to do with the religion. As that lady quoted in the magazine, live your life as your truest self and encourage others to do the same. So they just want us to secularize the hijab. So if a Muslim girl is wearing a hijab, we should appreciate you. We should not banned you from wearing hijab. But if another Muslim woman is not wearing hijab, we should be okay with it. Okay, that's her choice. Now this has become the purpose of the hijab, which is not the real purpose. And today's hijabi models, hijabi bloggers, influencers are just doing these things. They will just put the veil on their head and would be posing with inappropriate clothes that are not considered modest according to Islam, that are not loose, that are tight, and applying tons of makeup. They are just exposing their beauty and destroying the purpose of the hijab. That was to preserve your beauty, to not expose your beauty. And the companies of these capitalists are just gaining the wealth from it by Islamic women's clothings, by promoting these models. On one hand, they just want to generate wealth from it. On the other, they want to just secularize it and just destroying the real purpose of the hijab. Wanted to just confine it to some sort of fashion and not the religious thing. And our women are just falling for this trap and just doing the things what our enemies want us to do. So we should really think about it, that why we are wearing hijab and what we are seeing on social media. What are they doing? Even with wearing headscarf and abayas, they are just exposing their beauty by doing tons of makeup, giving attractive poses. Then what is the purpose of the hijab? Then why are you just wearing it? Then just take this off and you can just, without wearing headscarf and abayas, you can just show your beauty. So that is not the purpose of hijab. You are not fulfilling the purpose of the hijab. So inshallah, our girls, our women just understand this, and me and all the girls just understand the real purpose of the hijab and really observing the real hijab, real Islamic hijab, and not the modern hijab. So may God just give us strength, give us enough intellect to follow the real purpose of the hijab and observe the real hijab that Allah wants us to observe. So this was all for today. See you guys in the next video, inshallah. Till then, Allah Hafiz.